Hey guys, what's up? It's Cassie here. Thanks to everyone that asked questions on my Instagram story the other day. I'm going to be answering those questions here on this YouTube segment. I'm going to break them up into about 4 segments just to make sure I can answer as many questions as possible. So let's get started. Also, we're just going to ignore the bump on my nose. It's not Field Hockey related. I fully just ran into a door. So we're just going to ignore it. Thanks, guys. So the first segment we're going to be talking about is growing up and some tips for beginners. So I got a question like this asking how I started playing field hockey, and I never even knew what field hockey was growing up. I always wanted to be a swimmer or a soccer player, but my older sister actually was the one that got me into the sport. She started playing for a club team called East Coast Field Hockey, and they needed an extra player one day, and so I kind of just stepped in to just fill that space, and I ended up falling in love with the sport. And so she recommended me going to play for WC Eagles, which I'll answer this question in a bit. But she recommended me going to play for WC Eagles. So I started doing that. I would travel there every Tuesday for practice. And then if my mom let me, I would go another day for either an individual or a group lesson. And then almost every weekend I was there Saturday, Sunday, staying at a friend's house to compete in tournaments. So one of my top tips for beginners is just to try and get as much exposure as you can in field hockey. I remember I would go to practice on Tuesdays, do tournaments every weekend, but on top of that, I would go out every day and just work on my stick work on my passing, hand-eye coordination, and would work on things that I was good at, would work on things that I was really bad at, and I just fell in love with that process of trying to get better each day. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about recruiting tips. We had a ton of questions on this, so I'm going to try and answer as many as possible. But to start off, I'm going to answer some about these, which is just some tips for those that are getting into the recruiting world. It's pretty intense if you are not prepared for it. So I'm going to try and help you guys as much as possible. Some main pieces of advice is reach out to coaches. If you're going to a tournament, going to a showcase, I used to do Disney, festival, NITs, all of that. It's great. It gets your name out there. Coaches see you. I remember I used to email coaches and tell them that I was going to be playing at this date on this field, blah, 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 just to let them know that I was interested, and if they wanted to come watch me, it would be amazing. And on top of that, it is great nowadays to make recruiting videos. Some tips for that. Add in some skills, probably about 1 to 2 minutes of skills, and then about 2 minutes of gameplay. So some of your best clips of you playing in games. Try and not make the video more than 5 minutes, because usually people will stop watching after that amount of time. And so use that, show that you can play different positions. If you're a defender, show that you can also have attacking skills, because versatility is great and coaches love looking for that. Next, I'm going to touch on my recruiting experience and how I kind of narrowed it down to one school. Just putting out there, everyone's different. Everyone has different preferences. So you really need to reflect yourself and kind of figure out what you're looking for in a college, because end of the day, you're going there to be a student. And field hockey is a great experience on top of that. But you need to love the college itself. You need to love the student atmosphere. You need to love the programs that are offered, where the school is, the area around it, how big it is, how small it is. So just kind of knowing that beforehand, or having an idea of it. When you go visit colleges, you kind of see more of how the school is itself. Try and go when students are actually in session, because you kind of get a feel for the normal college life. And don't stress being too young starting, because as you grow up, your preferences can change, you're growing, you're constantly changing. And so don't get too opinionated when you're first starting. Try and keep your ideas open, visit lots of schools, make pros and cons list. But just know there's no rush in the recruiting process. I know you feel like you need to try and get it done as fast as possible, but everyone's on their own timeline. For me, I really utilize the pros and cons list. So I would go on a visit, make a pros and cons list, write down what I liked about the school, what I didn't like about the school, And I really just tried to imagine myself being a normal student there, and just really what the experience would be like. And that really helped me narrow schools down. Okay, so next up, we're going to be talking about my experience at UNC. First, I'm going to answer this question. My favorite memory with the UNC field hockey team was winning the national championship on our home field in 2020. It was really special to me because it was my first season back after my ACL surgery. And I made the transition from being a defender to a midfielder, and playing a role in that win was really special to me. And being able to do that in front of hundreds of fans, lots of students came to the game, and it was just a really special moment. Yes, sometimes it can be stressful, but the professors are more than willing to work with you. And as long as you're very open and communicate with them, they'll almost always let you work outside of class, miss class for a great opportunity to go and train with the national team. Or if your college team is traveling that weekend, working with you, letting you take exams outside of the exam date, so you can go do that experience. I would have to say my favorite part about UNC, besides field hockey, has to be the other athletics. I love going to basketball games, love going to football games, love going to support other student athletes. And I think it's just really cool to see when you go to see all the other students that are there supporting those athletes. The atmosphere is amazing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the national team. Growing up, I always did futures, and don't really know what it's called now. I think it's called Nexus or something like that. But back in the day, it was called futures. And from there, you get selected for like a selection process to try and make youth national teams. And so growing up, I did U17 national team, U19 and U21, and then even the development team before being selected for the actual national team. So growing up, I always just wanted to try and get my name in the pipeline. So I was always doing those tournaments every summer, always going to the trainings, etc. It wasn't until I was on the U21 team where I had actually tore my ACL and I was out for a year. When I was fully recovered and I was ready to get back in it, I tried out for the developmental team. And when I was named to that spot, I continued on with that until COVID happened. Another thing, which stopped everything for a little bit. But then when that started up, I had season again, and then I tried out for the national team this past summer, and got selected to kind of do another selection-based thing, and got picked from there. So leading into that, talking about the ACL, I'm going to be talking about some confidence tips. A lot of girls ask me just about self-confidence, playing and even outside of field hockey. So first we're going to touch on this question. And yes, it was scary, but I wasn't as scared as I thought it would be, because I knew I put in so many hours of hard work, and you just kind of have to trust that all those hours and all those days and all that hard work you put in. And that kind of also leads into this question about playing with confidence. And so a lot of the times, confidence is just you believing in yourself. And so that went with, returning from ACL. I believed that I was strong enough to be able to step on the field and play like nothing happened. And so that's the same thing with playing with confidence. You just got to go out there and believe in yourself. Believe that you're a great player. Play to your strengths, know your weaknesses, but don't let that get in your head and have that self-doubt. You just got to think of yourself as a good player. You put in all that hard work, just trust it. So little weird, but for this question of playing under pressure, I actually really like playing under pressure because I think it's a great opportunity to grow. And I think that's kind of how I phrased it throughout my life. I think when I was younger, I used to kind of shy away from pressure because I was afraid of making mistakes. But nowadays, I look at it as an opportunity to get better. Playing under pressure, playing in high stress situations, I see as now really the only chance to push past my comfort level so I can get better. And when you start to phrase it like that, you start to become less afraid of making mistakes, and you almost look at mistakes as an opportunity to show where you can grow. if you make a mistake doing a skill, that just means you need to do it 10 more times to work on it. And so when you start to shift that mindset, you'll start to look at pressure and high stress situations as an opportunity to get better. Next, I'm going to talk on a few life situation things. So I play with the Ritual Specialist 95 Series stick, and I love it. I've been using it probably since freshman year of college, and you can get it from Longstreth Sports. If you shop online, you can use my code SUMFEST12 and get a discount on it. And then moving forward, yes, stay tuned. This summer, I'm going to be running some field hockey clinics. I would love to see as many of you girls there as possible. I'll have sign-ups soon on my website, which I'll link here. But yes, can't wait to see you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you ever have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me on my Instagram, wherever.